Today is the 8th of March, 1977. Now I'm going to take you back with me to 1937. Now here where the metal gate is, at that time there was a nice little white picket fence. And there was a barbed wire hedge that went all the way around, but it was concealed by a very lovely lush green hedge. Then when the war broke out in the Second World War, then Baba had the stone wall made with the barbed wire as more protection against outsiders. Like now we'll go inside. The building here was a tank in the old days used by the British. And when the Eastern women came to live on the hill, then it had 3 ventilators on either side of each room. There's the east room, and on the other side is the west room, with a small room here facing south. And the large rooms had ventilators put on either side, and then the whole was covered with a red tile roof. When I and Princess Narina Machabelli and Kitty Davy came on the hill, we were the first 3 Westerners to come in 1937 to stay on Upper Meherabad. And at that time, there were 6 close Indian disciples staying in this eastern room. And they were Mera, Mani, Naja, Khorshid and her mother Sunamasi, and an Indian girl by the name of Valu. We will walk up to the far end there, and I will show you a spot where we used to sit with Baba. Now where these 2 bathrooms are, in early 1937, they didn't exist. There was a charming little arbor here, and covered with morning glory. And we used to sit in this arbor with Baba sometimes in the late afternoon when it was cool. And then later on, of course, when the bathrooms were added on to the building, then we no longer had an arbor. This extension here is of recent date. The arbor I was just speaking about was up against this little kitchen wall. And in here was a small kitchen which was called Baba's kitchen, in which Mera used to cook for Baba special little miniature dishes. And Khorshid used to be here to keep her company. And there was also a servant to assist her. But only Baba's meals were cooked in this little kitchen. Go to the big kitchen here. This big kitchen is where we all used to have our food cooked. We also sat on stools and ate in the kitchen. And in those early days, there was a table to the right of the door inside on which Baba sat, where he had his meals. We'll now go inside and see the kitchen. This is still early 1937, and as I said, this is our main kitchen. And Baba used to come and sit in the kitchen, and we had put a table here for him with a mattress and a pillow and a nice cover. And Baba used to sit there, and he would have his meals or sit with us while we would be sitting around on little stools on the floor, eating off our laps. And in the far corner there are where the food was cooked. And in those days, we used coal and wood fire. Today, it is known as Mansari's kitchen. We will now continue along this building, and I'll show you some other Baba spots. In the earlier days, Baba used to use this room on occasion. And then later when the Westerners came, it was turned into 3 bathrooms. That is by using partitions and putting taps in. And then after the ashram broke up, Then this was turned into a storeroom for Mansari's use. And this next building here, you see it very nice with bricks and so forth, and it's now a resting room for the Westerners. But in the early days, it was a little lean-to kitchen just made of mud walls and tin roof, in which there used to be wood fire, and they would make chapatis and bhakris. Occasionally, they might also heat the bath water there. We will go down and see where Elizabeth used to have her garage and where she housed her animals. So. This area here is where we had a sort of makeshift garage for Elizabeth Patterson's car. It was made of tattas with a tin roofing. And as it was quite spacious, Elizabeth also used to keep the cages for her animals there, because she always was very keen that they should be well protected, especially at night. So Lily the deer and Mara the sheep and the white rabbit and the monkeys all were housed here, as well as Elizabeth's car. Now we'll go over on this side of the compound. This tin shed over here is rather disreputable looking, but it was very useful in the early days because all our extra heavy luggage was kept there, because we all had very little space around our beds to keep only a small amount of luggage. So now we'll go down to the space where we used to have games with Baba. In this far corner here, we built a big rectangular enclosure of barbed wire and chicken wire, where we kept a lot of ducks at one time. Valu and I constructed it, and we also did the cement pond in which the ducks had their swim every day. And later on, nearer this side, we used to sometimes in the evenings have volleyball games with Baba or badminton games. Baba would play with us one side, and then he'd change over and play on the other side. So there were no hurt feelings, because Baba's side always won. In the early days, this area here had no roofing to it. There were two passageways, one that came from the west room and one that came from the east room, and they were lined with tatta and with the tin roofing. Then later on, so there's to have some place for us to sit, we had this tin roof put above, and this was our dining room and recreation room. And our dining tables and chairs were not the comfortable ones you have now, even though they're tin. We used to have just benches lined up together, and they were our dining table. And each one had their own little separate stool, which they could bring up to the table or put near where Baba would be sitting on the gadi. So they were very useful, and more useful than chairs, really. And on this end corner here, we had a table tennis table, Ping-Pong as we called it in those days, and we had to be pretty sharp to play with Baba and return his balls. Now you can see there's an upper story that's been added to this tank building. And this was done in the summer of 1938, because by that time Baba had called quite a few more Westerners and quite a few more Easterners. And these two lower rooms weren't sufficient to house everybody. Now we'll go upstairs, or you want to go to the museum room first? Museum. We'll now go to the west room, which is now known as the museum room. The little porte cochere is a recent addition to protect the museum room from sun and dust. So we'll now go this way to the museum room. We are now in the museum room, but in the old days it was known as the West Room. And when we returned from France with Baba in 1937, we were assigned corners in this room by Baba. This was my corner. No, this was Narina Machiavelli's corner. This was Kitty Devi's corner, and this was my corner. And then later on, when Nani, my mother, and Elizabeth Patterson came in time for Baba's birthday, they also stayed in this room until it was time for us to go to Panchgani because of the heat. And during that period that we were in Panchgani, then the upper story was built. Now, I'm going to show you a chart which Baba started me painting when we were in Nasik. And I had to work on it continuously when we were here in Meherabad. In fact, I had no other assignments or anything to do with the household excepting this painting. And at that time, then my corner was changed and I was put in this corner, and Norina went upstairs. Now, no one was allowed to see the painting or to see me painting. So I used to have to keep a sari around my bed, and that was a signal to whoever came in the room that if they wanted to speak to me, they would call me out from my corner because they mustn't come and see what I was working on. And then when the painting was finished, then Mera saw it, the chart. And then after that, it was kept covered in the East Room and was not seen until 1954 when that group of Westerners came for Baba with the darshan program at that time. And Baba called me to Meherabad, I was in Meherazad then, and asked me to bring out the chart and show it to them. That was the first time it was shown publicly. Then after Baba dropped the body, then I brought it here in the museum room to be kept, because after all, it's Baba's chart. Every bit of it is entirely under Baba's direction, and I have nothing to do with it excepting to be the instrument to do what Baba said. So we'll move over here and I'll show you the chart. Is that okay? This chart was outlined to me by Baba in Nasik in the early part of 1937 when he had what was known as the Western Ashram there. And Baba first had me do the 10 circles, and I had to do it all to scale. And at the time when Baba saw the plan, he had put little, what looked like hieroglyphics in the corners of the margin. And I realized afterwards, because I found one or two on my rough draft, that each little mark signified where each one of these things were to go on the canvas, before Baba had even told me what was to go on the canvas. So as I say, first I did the 10 circles, then I did the different figures, the animals, and so forth, little by little, as Baba gave me the work to do. And on the rough sketch, he would either initial or sign it, which okayed the drawing, and then I was able to transfer it onto the canvas. Baba approved all the coloring I did, and in fact, the only coloring that he did not approve of, and he himself changed, was the platform on which he is sitting at the very top. I had made a color similar to that, but it was not quite the shade that Baba wanted. So Baba took my palette and mixed the paint and said, now apply it to the canvas. Otherwise, all the other things, the coloring he left to me, because I told him that if he didn't approve, it was very easy on an oil painting to retouch it.
Baba's hands, what's he saying now?
Well, he's pointing to his heart, and then he's pointing down to his circle. The most complicated are the gray subjects at the top, which are most incomprehensible, and I, to this day, don't remember how I interpreted Baba's dictation on the board that had me do those kind of drawings, because Baba would not explain them to me. I asked him to give me some explanation because I thought possibly I might do a better job of the work. When I did the grey paintings at the top, they were very curious composition and subject, and so I asked Baba one day if he would give me some explanation as to what I was doing so I might have a better understanding. And Baba very forcefully dictated on the board, do as I say and don't ask questions. So time went by, and then I had another problem that seemed a little difficult, so I again asked Baba the same question, and Baba gave me the same answer. So when the third time he still said to me, do as I say and don't ask questions, then I decided, well, this is the way Baba wanted it, and so after that I didn't question, I just went ahead and did what he told me to, hoping and feeling that maybe someday the key to this chart will be found, because Baba never did anything without a reason, and there must be some reason for this chart. Now, one of the things that Baba gave me were the number of people, but I don't remember actually offhand, the number of people that are in each circle. The first circle, of course, are the 12 close disciples, men. All the other circles are so many men and so many women in each one. I feel very safe now holding on to this railing, but in the very early days when the upper structure was built, these steps had no railing. And I remember seeing my mother very daintily holding onto her slacks and keeping on the wall side, going down step by step saying, Baba, Baba, Baba. Then later on, there was a railing added, but this in-between pieces were missing. So when all you Westerners started coming, we asked Padre, please to put these extra bars because we didn't want you to go flying through in between. So now these rooms upstairs here were, might say, a continuation of a dormitory. We had the 2 rooms downstairs occupied. Now also the 2 rooms upstairs were occupied. And it's rather humorous to think that Baba put all the Westerners in the West room upstairs and all the Easterners in the East room upstairs. That may be just a coincidence, or he may have done it on purpose, we don't know. And downstairs here for a while, this was also a bedroom. And when Helen Dam, who painted the interior of Baba's tomb, was here, she occupied this room. And now this room is known as the library. Mera will now be showing you the East room and maybe 1 or 2 other things. So I will say Jai Baba to you all.
Jai Baba. Rano, you missed your call. You could have been a news commentator all this time.
God help me.